Hey family. Okay, so we are in a new week. I did not go live yesterday for 1 Samuel 20 through 24, but I will do that and post it to the channel just so that you guys can review whenever you feel led to review. But, or actually, no, was it 25 through 29? Yeah, that was yesterday's. But today we are on 1 Samuel 30 through 2 Samuel 3. 1 Samuel 30 through 2 Samuel 3. I'm going to stay on track. I told you guys to read on your own yesterday. So yeah, I will make sure that I do a video and upload it to the channel. That way we do have Mondays on the channel. But for now, we're going to continue and go ahead and do Tuesday. So good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. Before we get started, I did want to just say, continue to pray for the nation. Still not seeing the recent videos. Okay, I'll make sure that they're public. Maybe they're just not public. I did upload the notes and everything, so I'll go back and check it just to make sure as soon as we're done with this, because that should be showing. And then we'll go ahead and get started. So today we're on chapter 30. Let's go. All right, so David is going after the Amalekites. And so let's do it. Chapter 30. Now it happened when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag, attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken captive the women and those who were there. From small to great, they did not kill anyone, but carried them away and went their way. So David and his men came to the city, and there it was, burned with fire, with their wives, their sons, and their daughters who had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's two wives, Ahinoam, the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal the Carmelite, had been taken captive, which I will go into great detail about Abigail from yesterday, because we did skip that, so yeah. Now David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. Then David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, please bring the ephod here to me. And Abiathar brought the ephod to David. So David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. So David went, he and the 600 men who were with him, and came to the brook Bezor, where those stayed who were left behind. And David pursued, he and 400 men. So basically 200 of them stayed behind out of the 6, and they pursued with 400 men, just so that you guys know. Because 200 stayed behind because they were weary, that they could not cross the brook Bezor. Then they found an Egyptian in the field, and they brought him to David, and they gave him bread, and he ate, and there they let him drink water. So they gave him a piece of cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins. So when he had eaten, his strength came back to him, for he had eaten no bread nor drunk any water for 3 days and 3 nights. Then David said to him, to whom do you belong, and where are you from? And he said, I am a young man from Egypt, servant of an Amalekite, and my master left me behind because 3 days ago I fell sick. We made an invasion of the southern area of the Cherethites in the territory which belongs to Judah, and of the southern area of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. And David said to him, can you take me down to this troop? So he said, swear by me Swear to me by God that you will neither kill me nor deliver me into the hands of my master, and I will take you down to this troop. Sorry, guys, I meant to mute this. Hold on a second. Okay. How did it? Hold on. Okay. Okay, verse 15. We're on 30, verse 15 of verse 16 now. And when he had brought him down, there they were spread out over all of the land, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil which they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Judah. Then David attacked them from twilight until evening of the next day. Not a man of them escaped except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. So David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives. And nothing of theirs was lacking, either small or great, sons or daughters, spoil or anything which they had taken from them. David recovered all. Then David took all of the flocks and the herds that they had driven before those other livestock, and he said, "This is David's spoil." Now David came to the 200 men who had been so weary that they could not follow David, whom they had also made to stay at the brook Besor. So they went out and met with David, and to meet with the people who were with him. And when David came near the people, he greeted them. Then all the wicked and worthless men of those who went with David answered and said, "Because they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the spoil that we have recovered, except for every man's wife and children, that they may lead them away and depart." But David said, "My brethren, you shall not do so with what the Lord has given us. Who has preserved us and delivered us into the hand of the troop that came against us? For who will heed you in this matter? But as his part is who goes down to the battle, so shall his heart be who stays by the supplies. They shall share alike." So it was from that day forward, he made it a statute and an ordinance for Israel to this day. Now, when David came to Ziklag, he sent off some of the spoil to the elders of Judah, to his friends, saying, "Here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of the Lord." To those who were in Bethel, those who were in Ramoth of the south, and those who were in Jatir, those who were in Aroer, those who were in Sipmoth, those who were in Eshtamoa, those who were in Racal, I hope I said that right, those who were with the cities of the Jeremielites, and those who were in the cities of the Kenites, those who were in Hormah, and those who were in Chorashan, those who were in Athok, I don't know how to say that one, those who were in Hebron, and and to all the places where David himself and his men were accustomed to rove. Chapter 31. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines and fell slain in Mount Gilboa. Then the Philistines followed hard after Saul and his sons, and the Philistines killed Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, Saul's sons. The battle became fierce against Saul. The archers hit him, and he was severely wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised men come and thrust me through and abuse me." But his armor bearer would not, for he was greatly afraid. Therefore Saul took a sword and fell on it. And when his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died with him. So Saul and his 3 sons, his armor bearer, and all of his men died together the same day. And when the men of Israel who were on the other side of the valley and those who were on the other side of the Jordan saw that the men of Israel had fled and that Saul and his sons were dead, they forsook the cities and fled, and the Philistines came and dwelt in them. So it happened the next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, that they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen at Mount Gilboa. And they cut off his head and stripped him of his armor, and sent word throughout the land of the Philistines to proclaim in the temple of their idols and among the people. Then they put his armor in the temple of the Ashtorites, and they fastened his body to the wall of Bethshan. Now, when the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and traveled all night and took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Bethshan, and they came to Jabesh and burned them there. Then they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree at Jabesh and fasted 7 days. And then moving on to 2 Samuel chapter 1. Now it came to pass after the death of Saul, when David had returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and David had stayed 2 days in Ziklag, on the third day, behold, it happened that a man came from Saul's camp with his clothes torn and dust on his head. So it was when he came to David that he fell to the ground and prostrated himself. And David said to him, Where have you come from? So he said, I have escaped from the camp of Israel. Then David said to him, How did the matter go? Please tell me. And he answered, The people have fled from the battle. Many of the people are fallen and dead, and Saul and Jonathan, his son, are dead also. So David said to the young man who told him, How do you know that Saul and Jonathan, his son, are dead? Then the young man who told him said, As I happened by chance to be on Mount Gilboa, there was Saul leaning on his spear. And indeed the chariots and horsemen followed hard after him. Now when he looked behind him, he saw me and called me and answered. And I answered, Here I am. And he said to me, Who are you? So I answered him, I am an Amalekite. And he said to me again, Please stand over me and kill me, for anguish has come upon me, but my life still remains in me. So I stood over him and killed him, because I was sure that he could not live after he had fallen. And I took the crown that was on his head and the bracelet that was on his arm, and have brought them here to my Lord. Therefore David took hold of his own clothes and tore them, and so did all the men who were with him. And they mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Saul and Jonathan his son, for the people of the Lord, and for the household of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. Then David said to the young man who told him, Where are you from? And he answered, I am the son of an alien, an Amalekite. So David said to him, How was it that you were not afraid to put forth your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? Then David called one of the young men and said, Go near and execute him. And he struck him so that he died. So David said to him, Your blood is on your own head, for your own mouth has testified against you, saying, I have killed the Lord's anointed. Even in Saul's death, David was so honorable. Then David lamented with his lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan, his son. And he told them to teach the children of Judah the song of the bow. Indeed, it is written in the book of Jasher. The beauty of Israel is slain on your high places. How the mighty have fallen. Tell it not in Gath. Proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon. Lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice. Lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. O mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew nor rain upon you, nor fields of offerings, for the shield of the mighty is cast away there, the shield of Saul, not anointed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan did not turn back, and the sword of Saul did not return empty. Saul and Jonathan were beloved and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions. O daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet with luxury, who put ornaments of gold on your apparel. How the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle. Jonathan was slain in your high places. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love to me was wonderful, surpassing the love of women. How the mighty have fallen, and the weapons of war perished. Chapter 2, 2 Samuel. It happened after this that David inquired of the Lord, saying, "Shall I go up to any of the cities of Judah?" And the Lord said to him, "Go up, David." And David said, "Where shall I go up?" And he said, "To Hebron." So David went up there, and his two wives also, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. And David brought up the men who were with him, every man with his household. So they dwelt in the cities of Hebron. Then the men of Judah came, and there they anointed David over the house of Judah. And they told David, saying, "The men of Jabesh Gilead were the ones who buried Saul." So David sent messengers to the men of Jabesh Gilead and said to them, "You are blessed of the Lord, for you have shown this kindness to your Lord, to Saul, and have buried him. And now may the Lord show kindness and truth to you. I will also repay you this kindness because you have done this thing. Now therefore let your hands be strengthened and be valiant, for your master Saul is dead, and also the house of Judah has anointed me king over them." But Abner, the son of Ner, commander of Saul's army, took Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and brought him over to Mahanaim. And he made him king over Gilead, over the Asherites, over Jezreel, over Ephraim, over Benjamin, and over all of Israel. Ishbosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and he reigned 2 years. Only the house of Judah followed David, the house of praise. And the time that David was king in Hebron over the house of Judah was 7 years and 6 months. Now Abner, the son of Ner, and the servants of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon, and Joab, the son of Zeruiah, the servants of David, went out and met them by the pool of Gibeon. So they sat down, one on one side of the pool and the other on the other side of the pool. Then Abner said to Joab, "Let the young men now arise and compete before us." And Joab said, "Let them arise." So they arose and went over by number, 12 from Benjamin, followers of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and 12 from the servants of David, which is government. So that's 24. And each one grasped his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in the opponent's side, so they fell down together. Therefore, that place was called the Field of Sharp Swords, which is in Gibeon. So there was a very fierce battle that day, and Abner and the men of Israel were beaten before the servants of David. Now the three sons of Zeruiah were there, Joab, Abishai, and Ashael. And Ashael was a fleet of foot as a wild gazelle. So Ashael pursued Abner, and in going he did not turn to the right or to the left from following Abner. Then Abner looked behind him and said, "Are you Ashael?" And he answered, "I am." And Abner said to him, "Turn aside to your right hand or to your left hand, and lay hold on one of the young men, and take his armor for yourself." But Ashael would not turn aside from following him. So Abner said again to Ashael, "Turn aside from following me. Why should I strike you to the ground? How then could I face your brother Joab?" However, he refused to turn aside. Therefore Abner struck him in the stomach with the blunt end of the spear, so that the spear came out of his back, and he fell down there and died on the spot. So it was that as many came to the place where Ashael fell down and died, stood still. Joab and Abishai also pursued Abner, and the sun was going down when they came to the hill of Ammah, which is before Giah, by the road to the wilderness of Gibeon. Now the children of Benjamin gathered together behind Abner and became a unit and took their stand on the top of a hill. Then Abner called to Joab and said, "Shall the sword devour forever? Do you not know that it will be bitter in the latter end? How long will it be then until you tell the people to return from pursuing their brethren? And Joab said, As God lives, unless you had spoken, surely then by morning all the people would have given up pursuing their brethren. So Joab blew a trumpet, and all the people stood still and did not pursue Israel any more, nor did they fight any more. Then Abner and his men went on all that night through the plain, crossed over the Jordan, and went out through Bithron, and they came to Manaim. So Joab returned from pursuing Abner, and when he had gathered all the people together, there were missing of David's servants 19 men and Ashiel. But the servants of David had struck down of Benjamin and Abner's men 360 men who died. They took up Ashiel and buried him in his father's tomb, which was in Bethlehem. And Joab and his men went all night, and they came to Hebron at daybreak. Chapter 3. That's the last chapter, right, for today? Yeah. Now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David, but David grew stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. Sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Ammon by Ahinoam the Jezreelitess. His second, Gilead, by Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. The third, Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. The fourth, Adoniah, the son of Haggith. The fifth, Shephatiah, the son of Abital. And the sixth, Ithream, by David's wife Eglah. These were born to David in Hebron. Now it was so, while there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, that Abner was strengthening his hold on the house of Saul. And Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Ai, or Ia. I don't know how to say that one. So Ishbosheth said to Abner, Why have you gone into my father's concubine? Then Abner became very angry at the words of Ishbosheth and said, Am I a dog's head that belongs to Judah? Today I show loyalty to the house of Saul your father, to his brothers and to his friends, and have not delivered you into the hand of David. And you charge me today with a fault concerning this woman? May God do so to Abner and more also, if I do not do for David as the Lord has sworn to him, to transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul and set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah from Dan to Beersheba. And he could not answer Abner another word because he feared him. The fear of man is a snare, right? Then Abner sent messengers on his behalf to David, saying, Who is the land? Whose is the land? Saying also, Make your covenant with me, and indeed my hand shall be with you, to bring all of Israel to you. And David said, Good, I will make a covenant with you, but one thing I require of you. You shall not see my face unless you first bring Michal, Saul's daughter, when you come to see my face. So David sent messengers to Ishbosheth, Saul's son, saying, Give me my wife Michal, whom I betrothed to myself for 100 foreskins of the Philistines. And Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband in Paltiel, the son of Laish. Then her husband went along with her to Bahurim, weeping behind her. So Abner said to him, Go, return, and he returned. Now Abner had communicated with the elders of Israel, saying, In time past you were seeking for David to be king over you. Now then do it, for the Lord has spoken of David, saying, By the hand of my servant David I will save my people Israel from the hand of the Philistines and from the hand of all of their enemies. And Abner also spoke in the hearing of Benjamin. Then Abner also went to speak in the hearing of David in Hebron all that seemed good to Israel and the whole house of Benjamin. So Abner and 20 men with him came to David at Hebron, and David made a feast for Abner and the men who were with him. Then Abner said to David, I will arise and go and gather all of Israel to my lord the king, that they may make a covenant with you, and that you may reign over all that your heart desires. So David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. At the moment, the servants of David and Joab came from a raid and brought much spoil with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he had gone in peace. When Joab and all the troops that were with him had come, they told Joab, saying, Abner, the son of Ner, came to the king, and he sent him away, and he is gone in peace. Then Joab came to the king and said, What have you done? Look, Abner came to you. Why is it that you sent him away, and he has already gone? Surely you realize that Abner the son of Ner came to deceive you, to know you're going out and you're coming in, and to know all that you are doing. And when Joab had gone from David's presence, he sent messengers after Abner, who brought him back from the well of Sirah. But David did not know it. Now when Abner had returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him privately, and there stabbed him in the stomach, so that he died for the blood of Ashiel, his brother. Afterward, when David heard it, he said, My kingdom and I are guiltless before the Lord forever of the blood of Abner the son of Ner. Let it rest on the head of Joab and on all of his father's house. And let there never fail to be in the house of Joab one who has a discharge or is a leper, who leans on a staff or falls by the sword, or who lacks bread. So Joab and Abishai his brother killed Abner, because he had killed their brother Ashiel at Gibeon in battle. Then David said to Joab and all the people who were with him, Tear your clothes, gird yourselves with sackcloth, and mourn for Abner. And King David followed the coffin. So they buried Abner at Hebron, and the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. And the king sang a lament over Abner and said, Should Abner die as a fool dies? Your hands were not bound, nor your feet put into fetters. As a man falls before wicked men, so you fell. Then all the people wept over him again, and when the people came to persuade David to eat food, while it was still day, David took an oath, saying, God do so to me, and more also, if I taste bread or anything else until the sun goes down. Now all the people took note of it, and it pleased them, since whatever the king did pleased all of the people. For all the people and all of Israel understood that day that it had not been the king's intent to kill Abner the son of Ner. Then the king said to his servants, Do you not know that a prince and a great man has fallen this day in Israel? And I am weak today, though anointed king, and these men, the sons of Zeruiah, are too harsh for me. The Lord shall repay the evildoer according to his wickedness. Okay, so the breakdown. Break it down, break it down, break it down. Let me get it pulled up real quick. As we go forward, it gets harder and harder, because it's just like there's so much richness. And how do you summarize so much? It's been crazy. It's been good though. Okay. So 1 Samuel 30, David strengthens himself in the Lord. David returns to Ziklag to find it burned, and his wives and the families of his men are taken captive. His men are overwhelmed with grief and consider stoning him. David strengthens himself in the Lord, inquires of God, and pursues the Amalekites and recovers all that was taken. Nothing was lost. David establishes a statute of equal sharing of spoil and sends gifts to Judah, which that's just showing the generosity of God, This chapter reveals spiritual maturity under pressure. David did not react emotionally, but he reacted spiritually. He strengthened himself in the Lord, showing his independent faith and not dependence on his own human desires and also human support. Equal distribution of spoil reflects kingly administration and covenantal justice, preparing David for national leadership. 1 Samuel 31, the fall and death of Saul. Israel is defeated by the Philistines at Mount Gilboa. Saul's sons, including Jonathan, are killed. Saul was wounded and fearful of capture, and he takes his own life. The Philistines dishonor his body, but the men of Jabesh Gilead recover and bury Saul and his sons. Paul's end reflects the tragic conclusion of leadership separated from God's guidance. His suicide demonstrates despair rather than repentance, and Jabesh Gilead's honor highlights human gratitude, though divine rejection still remained. 2 Samuel 1, David mourns Saul and Jonathan. An Amalekite claims to have killed Saul and brings word to David expecting a reward. David orders his execution for touching the Lord's anointed. David composes a lament honoring Saul and Jonathan and expressing grief rather than relief. David refuses to advance through blood guilt or opportunism. He exhibited public mourning, showing moral authority and covenantal reverence. He honored Saul and stabilized his legitimacy as king before the nation. 2 Samuel 2, David anointed king of Judah. David inquires of the Lord and is directed to Hebron. Notice how he always inquires of the Lord. And I think that's something to point out there. And he passed the money test, like allowing the troops that stayed behind to get spoils, even though they didn't fight. So, and compassion too, because they were tired, right? So good. Where Judah anoints him as king. Sorry, let me go back. David inquires of the Lord and is directed to Hebron, where Judah anoints him as king. Abner installs Ishbosheth as king over the rest of Israel, leading a conflict between the two houses, because we know a house divided can't stand. A skirmish escalates, and Asahel is killed by Abner, which that was something that David was not aware of. David's kingship begins through seeking God, not seizing power. The divided kingdom shows human resistance to divine succession, and God allows the transitional phase to reveal hearts and motives. And then 2 Samuel 3, God strengthens David's house. The struggle between Saul's house and David's house continues, of course. David grows stronger while Saul's house begins to weaken. Abner defects to David after conflict with Ishbosheth. David receives him peacefully, but Joab murders Abner in revenge. David publicly mourns Abner and distances himself from the crime, basically washing his hands because he had nothing to do with it. Scripture emphasizes divine momentum, and God strengthens who he has chosen. David's mourning preserves his righteous leadership and also reveals that it is untainted by treachery. Abner's deflection signals the collapse of resistance once God's judgment has been activated. The overall summary of 1 Samuel 30 through 2 Samuel 3. The first chapter, David moves from crisis to restoration through prayer and inquiry. Next chapter, Saul's reign ends in fear, silence, and despair. Next chapter, David ascends through honor, restraint, and covenantal integrity. The next chapter, God transfers authority progressively and not abruptly. And then the last chapter, leadership is established by alignment with God, not manipulation of outcomes. This section as a whole marks judicial end of Saul's rejected kingship and the measured establishment of David's rule. God removes leaders through sustained disobedience and installs leaders through humility, repentance, patience, and covenantal faithfulness. So powerful. This is very relevant to what's happening today. It's so crazy. It's so good. So good, because we're seeing it happen in the natural, all over the globe, in the body of Christ. So yeah, I pray that you guys were blessed. Tomorrow we will pick back up on 2 Samuel 4 and read to 2 Samuel 8. And I think that I should have the recording for Monday posted maybe by the end of the day today or before noon tomorrow. I don't want to delay on that. So as soon as I can get that posted, I will. Amen. God bless you guys and enjoy the rest of your day.